Hi everyone, I'm going to continue the other video I've done about the using molds to create texture. There were a lot of questions and I've done more experimenting, so this will be the part 2. So as you can see, I've already showed you this one in the last video. Here is another example of using the Silicone molds, and this one also. I'm showing you just to so you can see the variation in the color, and I've got more examples because a lot asked me about the painting, the what's going on after making the molds, so I will talk about it also. So for right now I'm moving this aside and for the experimenting. So first of all, what I've showed you, I've used a bought modeling paste from the cheap store and also my homemade modeling paste, and basically they work the same. The only thing that I've noticed that is that my modeling paste is a little bit less flexible than the modeling paste bought from the store. That's it. So the recipe I gave you, you can use it. It will just be a little less flexible. So, and most of the time you don't need it because all these elements are going on flat surfaces, while less of it will go on something like a spine of a book. So it really doesn't need to be so bendy. Here is the ones that from the Stamperia, and it's flexible, and I could put it on a spine of a book, but I don't know if I would do it. And the other one here is with mine, and it's just a little bit less flexible. Now the other stuff that I've talked about, I talked about using a glue gun, and a glue gun is also a little bit flexible up to a point. So if that's what you prefer or if using, you can go for it. Now I've done some experimenting with modeling paste, the grainy one, and also with joint compound, because joint compound I'm always using and it's cheaper. I just buy a big bucket from some Home Depot, some hardware store, and that's what I use. So here we go, the grainy ones. Here they are, and they look a little more distressed and almost not flexible at all. And I will also show you, before I forget, while I was experimenting, I ordered this silicone molds. They are supposed to be for chocolate, and I figured I'll just try them, and I ordered them from AliExpress, and they are great. As long as they are not too thick, you can work with them, but in this instance it's better to use a glue gun than a modeling paste. A modeling paste, because it's so thick, it's like 4 millimeters thick, then it takes like 2 days to dry completely. And of course if you use something like joint compound, it will dry faster, but then you don't have any flexibility. Okay, so I'm going to show everything. I'm talking and talking. So this works great. And of course when you pick molds, just notice how detailed it is, how thick it is, because not everything that is meant for chocolate will work for this kind of stuff. Like, there is no point of buying silicone mold that is used for soaps, because it's so thick. It's like something like this that it will never dry. So now some people told me they use resin and other stuff. I don't do resin, it's just too expensive, don't want to get into it. So let's see, I've got here, these are the ones that I've done with the joint compound. Now they look more distressed, so I really like how it looks, but you need to be really careful. One move wrong and they break. You see, it breaks. So you can do it, but just if you want a more distressed stony look, then it can be done with joint compound. So these are the joint compound ones. I'm going to move this aside. Now with this kind of molds, I prefer to use the glue gun. It just goes in better, and the most the thing that is great about it in this instance is that you don't have to wait 24 hours. You just take the glue gun and you start working it into all this detail. Now with the glue gun, sometimes if it's not where you want it, it's too much, it's too thin, you can activate it again because it dries really fast. You can activate it again with a heat tool, not a hair dryer, a heat tool. And I prefer to put a piece of paper. Some asked me why this piece of paper. It's not only to pick up, it's hot, the mold. It's also nice for me to work later on whatever surface I've picked, that I have the paper underneath. So, and it really doesn't matter, because if I'm doing something like this, I can always remove the excess paper from around it, if it's with scissors or just tearing it, if it's in the way. But because I have it underneath, it's a better substrate to glue to your surface than just the joint compound or the modeling paste. If I had only the modeling paste, then I would probably need a gel medium to make sure it's stuck. And like this, I only need white glue to stick it to whatever I want. So that's one of the things with putting a piece of paper on top. The other thing is it allows me to spread a little whatever I'm using. It doesn't matter if I'm using the glue gun or if I'm using the modeling paste. I'm putting a little bit of pressure, and then it pushes it into all the nooks and crannies. So that's why I'm using the paper on top. Now in the last video I showed you how on top of a tissue paper I smeared glue on top to make it more more thick, more durable, whatever. I kept on doing these experiments, and now I find that I really don't need the glue. I just need to stick paper on top, and this is still warm, so it means that I can't lift it off. Only when it's not warm you can pull it off, and here it is. Don't know how much of it you can see. It's white on white, but here it is. Now another thing, here I've got 4 elements that don't connect, but with this paper they are together. Of course I can take each one and use it in different project, but if I want them placed as is, then the paper is doing the job for me, and now I can just take this and glue it to whatever surface I want. I want this to take this book and do something on top of it. I will just glue it like this, and it doesn't matter that I have the paper underneath. So let's move on. And I've also showed you, I told you last that you can do the glue gun on all kinds of silicone trivets and coasters. Here is another one, just like this. And as you can see, I didn't put paper, and I can lift it off, but it's just a little bit more difficult. And I still had paint here because usually I use it as a stamp, so now I've got also paint here, which means that maybe we can experiment with putting glitter or all kinds of stuff at the bottom and then do the glue. So here are the ones that I've done with the glue gun that turned out quite nice, and they are a little bit flexible but not as the modeling paste, the bot one. And I'm going to show you now how I paint them. I'm going to move all of this, and especially the glue gun, before I'm burning myself because I'm that talented, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back now. First of all, here is the one I've done, and now it's cold so I can peel it. Here it is. Don't know how much of it. Again, you can see white on white. And now for attaching and painting, I've picked all kinds, and this one, the grainy modeling paste, this one the joint compound, grainy, the glue gun, just so you will see that you can use any one of them, and even in combination it really doesn't matter. And I've just tore some of the paper off. It again doesn't matter as long as it doesn't stick out. This is just one of my journals that haven't finished yet, so usually I don't do the cover until I'm finished, but I'm going to go for it. So now I'm just going to put some white glue in the back. Now sometimes the modeling paste, when it dries, it like shrinks, so this is another thing why it's better to have the paper in the back. And this one is clogged. Let's go. Of course it's giving me trouble now. Now usually when I'm doing something like this, I before I glue all of this, I do more of texturizing in the back, usually either with a paper towel or white backing of a paper napkin or tissue paper, just crumpling them, doing all kinds of wrinkles in the back. Let's see if you can see it. This is all wrinkles with the white backing of a paper napkin. And let's see if I've got something else here. All these wrinkles, this is tissue paper in the back, and then I'm laying all the things on top of it. But right now I'm just going to do this, and if I feel like I need more texture in the back, then later on I will add it. The glue is giving me trouble. Okay, by hook or by crook, here we go. That's it. I'm done with you. Just placing my elements, and I'm not very careful right now. I want to do it quick so I can show you how it works. And it's better to put some pressure on top afterwards. Especially the ones with from the joint compound, they have a little bit of curve and need to be put in place and with some pressure so they will stick better. And I'm also going over, I don't care, I just want everything to be glued down. And of course, if you've got a gel medium, then it would be quicker, but I want to show you how easy it is with just plain white glue. Now if you are doing this kind of stuff on something that is a little bit glossy, then it's better to sand it first before trying to stick anything. And I know it looks like a mess because of the white paper and all the elements, but it really doesn't matter. It's all going to disappear into the background. Just putting enough glue. This one is also with the joint compound, so I need to hold it in place. Let's take something that is not right now a joint compound, so I won't have to struggle with it. Where are all the others? I don't care. So I'm going to just glue these pieces, and when it's dry we are going to the next stage. So I'll be back. Okay, so everything is attached. Not all the glue is dry, but I'm continuing, and next phase is covering everything with black gesso. Why black gesso? Because most of the time the colors are dark. At least I use dark colors, and if I would use white gesso, it always somehow picks through from somewhere. But if you want, you can use white gesso, and just be sure to cover it with paint. And another thing, what did I oh, and gesso also, because most of the time I'm using all kinds of stuff. Like I have here joint compound and modeling paste and glue gun, and in projects like this one I've got plastic and metal and wood stuff, and the gesso is a good primer. And here also, again, all kinds of stuff here that gesso will cover it, and then I can build on top of it with whatever colors I want. And I've bought this so you can see colors are really up to you and what you feel like it. It's just part of your imagination and what you want to do. So right now I'm just going to cover everything with gesso. Just make sure that you get into everything. All the nooks and crannies. When I have a lot of detail, then I'm just doing this and pushing the brush inside all the detail. And as you can see, as I'm working it in, all the white paper is just disappearing. It's part of the background, doesn't matter, and it just made my life easier sticking everything to my substrate. And I'm also going with the gesso over the areas that the other background. I can continue doing this just to make more texture instead of seeing brush strokes. I can do this area with a sponge and create more texture, and you can add whatever you want. If it's jewelry pieces, if it's all kinds of lace, anything goes. I've got lots of videos I've done on altered boxes with all kinds of options that you can play with, and see how I colored the whole thing. So the last one was in Halloween. I've done an altered book, so again you can look it up. Okay, so I'm going to finish just covering everything, and then I'm going to wait for it to dry before doing anything else, and then I will just show you all kinds of how to do the coloring. I'll be back. Okay, everything is covered with gesso and it's not completely dry, but I'm going to move forward. That's the problem. It takes a lot of time for each part to dry, if it's the glue and then the gesso and then the paint. So I'm just going to go and do it. And someone asked me how I do this kind of background. Basically it's just playing with shades of brown. I've got burnt umber and burnt sienna, and I also like to put some turquoise because it gives an illusion of rust and patina. But basically just play, and it doesn't have to be this. Here I've started with some turquoises and greens in the back, and then all kinds of gold and bronze on top. So again, it's up to you what you want to do. Here I've got black and gray at the bottom, and then light blue on top. Really up to you. The only thing is that I like to play with at least 2 shades of the same color in the back, and then 2 shades of metallics, and it doesn't have to be metallics on top to get the highlights. So I'm just going to take some of this paint, and I've already managed to squirt on myself some. So I've got this too, and I have this, the turquoise, and I'm just taking a sponge. You can do it with a brush. I'm just going to start with the turquoise, and I'm putting it very fast in all over it. Most of it won't show. This is just a first layer, and most of it is gonna get covered. Here we go, very quickly. Now I'm going into the burnt umber and starting to go again. Now in areas like this that I can't reach the sponge, I am just taking a paintbrush, and I'm just alternating between the two browns. So again, you won't have a solid color in the back, otherwise it looks like plastic if it's a solid paint. That's why I like to play with the colors. Now I know right now it all looks like a mess, but it's just working the layers. So be patient and work it until you are satisfied, and worst comes to worst, you can always cover everything with gesso again and start over. So it's not the end of the world, you can still work it. And here I really like it, but I feel like I need a darker brown to add, so I'm reaching for another paint that I have. Really dark brown, almost black, but not. So again, I'm just taking it with the sponge and adding in several places. Don't know how much of it you can see, but it's there, and it just adds to the whole. I need more of it. And if I feel that I covered too much of the turquoise, I can always come back and add some more. If it's with a brush or with another sponge, like so. It really doesn't matter. Just the only thing is that you are satisfied with the result. So I'm just adding in several places the turquoise. Okay, so it doesn't look good yet, and this is not glued completely. It's still wet, but now I need for this paint to dry before we are doing the highlights, the metallics or other paint. And one of the things, that's why I like to have more texture in between, and because it will pick also the same If you have texture, it will pick the highlights and the metallics or the other paint. And if you are just using paint and not metallics, then it's better to go with something that will show. Don't use black on this because it would hardly be shown, and it's definitely not a highlight. So I'm going to let this dry and I'll be back. Okay, continuing. Next I'm going for the metallics now. You can use acrylic paint, but if you've got wax, rub and buff, and or gilding wax, these are better, but they are expensive. But you can use just acrylic paint. Now it's better to have the thicker ones than the runny ones. And now I'm just taking a brush and I pick a hard bristle brush and taking a little bit of paint, dabbing excess, and now I'm just going to brush on top of all the texture, like so. And I can decide to go also like this. This is dry brushing and it picks all the little details. Here we go. More on the edges. Just make sure that your brush is not loaded with wet paint. As little as you can, and if need be, just go over again. Just don't load it with lots of wet paint, because you can never go back. The only thing you can do is cover everything and start over. So as you can see, I'm just going all over, and I can also decide to pick some of the texture in the back because I dabbed my brush, and that created a really subtle texture. It would also have picked if I didn't dab it, and there would be brush strokes. Now also with the metallics or any kind of other paint that you decide to do on top to pick up the highlights, again, I'm not using only one. This is only the start. Now I'm using this bronze color, and now I'm going to use this gold gilding wax. I finished yesterday I finished my gold acrylic paint, so this is it. I only have this gilding wax in gold. I need to pick. Now with the gilding wax, put it on any a flat surface, and I prefer to use my finger. I pick some of the elements with this, even where I've already put bronze, just again giving it highlights. Don't know how much of it you can see, but it's there, and it does make a difference when you don't use only one paint to do this. Everything looks a little bit more 3D, less flat when you are using more than one color. So this is very basic. There is not enough time to do more elaborate stuff. Like I've posted, I finished this yesterday and posted it, and a lot of asked for a video, but it took me a few days to complete. So as I said, it's not something that I can video, and just so you can see the variation in the color. And I finished the gold acrylic paint on this, so there you go. No more gold acrylic paint for me right now. So this is it, and I hope you liked it. I hope I answered all your questions and that you will have fun using this stuff. So thank you for watching, and thank you for leaving me comments down below. I'll be seeing you in my next video. Bye for now.